I certainly handed over my life to the devil.
I think he thought he was invincible.
It's time to go round and round with Ratt.
We realize that, we probably really don't like each other very much.
Miss Bobby bumming out.
This is the story behind the music.
Ratt was one of the biggest glam metal bands in the 1980s. They had huge hit songs, sold millions of records, and were all over MTV. But later on, things went south, from legal issues to two different bands calling themselves Ratt.
What is this? This is a new record. We just brought new record for you. Just came hot off the press. Hot off the press? Yeah.
What actually happened to Ratt? Stay with us as we look at how the band rose to fame, what went wrong, and where they are now. First, let's shed more light on the Ratt and what they are about.
Hey, you're a womanizer.
Ooh, probably, yeah. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. What can I say?
Ratt was one of the biggest names in glam metal during the 1980s, helping to shape the sound and image of what became known as the hair metal scene. Coming out of Los Angeles, the band gained massive popularity thanks to their catchy songs, flashy style, and heavy rotation on MTV. They were part of the first wave of glam metal bands that combined the raw energy of hard rock with pop-friendly hooks and flashy, over-the-top fashion. Their breakout success came with hit singles like Round and Round, which climbed to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it one of the most iconic glam metal songs of the decade. Other songs like Lay It Down, Wanted Man, You're in Love, and Dance also became fan favorites and staples of rock radio. Their music videos were popular on MTV, helping the band reach a broad audience beyond just rock fans. During the height of their fame, Ratt sold millions of albums. Releases like Out of the Cellar and Invasion of Your Privacy were certified gold, platinum, or multi-platinum by the RIAA, reflecting their widespread commercial appeal. They toured extensively, building a loyal fan base and solidifying their place in rock history alongside peers like Motley Crue, Poison, and Twisted Sister. However, as musical trends shifted in the early 1990s and grunge took over the rock scene, Ratt's popularity declined. The band experienced internal conflicts, legal disputes, and frequent lineup changes, which led to long breaks and unstable periods. Despite these challenges, Ratt continued to regroup and perform off and on from the 1990s through 2021, although often with different members from the original lineup. In 2010, Ratt released what would become their final studio album, Infestation. This album was seen by many fans as a return to the classic sound that made them famous in the first place. It reached number 130 on the Billboard 200 chart and showed that there was still interest in their music decades after their debut. While they never quite returned to the same level of fame they had in the 80s, Ratt remains an important and influential band in the history of glam metal. Their legacy continues through their music, which is still enjoyed by rock fans today. But how did they start? The story of Ratt began in 1973 in Hollywood, California, when a young and passionate singer named Stephen Pearcy formed a band called Fire Dome with a few of his friends. At the time, they were just a group of musicians trying to find their sound and place in the bustling Los Angeles rock scene. However, Fire Dome was short-lived, and by the next year, the group had already split up. Not ready to give up on music, Pearcy quickly started another band, this time with the quirky name Crystal Pistol. As the band evolved, so did its identity. Around 1976, Pearcy changed the name once again, this time to Mickey Ratt, giving it a playful and rebellious edge that suited the rising glam rock movement. Just a year later, the name was trimmed down to the sleeker and more iconic Ratt, the version that would eventually gain worldwide fame. Meanwhile, during these same years, a tall and talented guitarist named Robin Crosby was making his way through several local bands. He played in groups like Metropolis with Tommy Asakawa and Paramore McCarty, Excalibur, Phenomenon, Secret Service, and Mac Metal, all part of his journey toward finding the right musical fit. Mickey Ratt went through a long period of lineup changes, with different musicians joining and leaving as the band searched for the right mix of talent and chemistry. Among the notable names were guitarists Jake E. Lee, Chris Hager, and Bob DeLellis, as well as bass players Matt Thor, Tim Garcia, and Dave Jellison. The drummer's seat also saw several changes, filled at times by John Turner and Bob Eisenberg. Despite the rotating lineup, Mickey Ratt kept working hard. They recorded several demo tapes, appeared on underground music compilations, and even released a live concert recording on Piercy's independent label, Top Fuel Records. These efforts helped build a small but growing fan base and gain the attention of record labels. In 1980, hoping to finally land a deal with a major label, the band recorded a 2-song single, Dr. Rock and Drivin' on E. They handed these out to fans at their early club shows in Los Angeles, trying to generate buzz and stand out in the crowded rock scene. Later that same year, Robin Crosby officially joined the band, bringing stability and strong guitar skills. In January 1982, another young guitarist named Warren DeMartini joined the lineup. He was just 18 years old, attending college in San Diego, and at first wasn't sure if he should leave school to join a band that had only seen modest success. But after much deliberation, he took the leap, and it turned out to be a life-changing decision. Before the full lineup settled, Gene Hunter, a bassist from Jake E. Lee's former band, teaser and drummer Kurt Mayer, also played briefly with the band. Mayer even played on an early version of Tell the World, one of Ratt's first recorded songs, which ended up on the now famous Metal Massacre I compilation, a launchpad for many future rock stars. Eventually, 2 important new members joined Ratt: Bobby Blotzer, a hard-hitting drummer formerly with Vic Vergit, and Juan Crucier, a bassist who had played with Dokken and had been active in the rock scene since 1973. These additions gave Ratt the solid foundation it needed to grow into a professional, successful band. Interestingly, for a brief moment, guitarist Mark Torian, who would later form the Bullet Boys, replaced DeMartini, but Warren returned just in time to help the band record their first official EP later. This record marked the true beginning of Ratt's rise to fame. What started as a small dream in a Hollywood garage had, after years of hard work and many changes, turned into something much bigger. Ratt was finally ready to take the rock world by storm. How did they rise to stardom? Ratt reached a turning point in their career when they signed a deal with Time Coast Music, a production company headed by their then manager, Marshall Burrell. Time Coast already had a history in the music industry, having released records by bands like Spirit and the Alley Cats, so it gave Ratt a solid starting platform. Later that year, Ratt released their first self-titled EP, a 6-song record that made a surprisingly big impact for an independent release. It sold over 100,000 copies, an impressive number for a rising band. Their energetic performances and catchy songs quickly made them favorites in the Hollywood and Los Angeles club scene, where they regularly sold out weekend shows at popular venues. The EP's standout track, You Think You're Tough, was co-written by Stephen Piercy and Robin Crosby, and it helped the band gain airplay on major local radio stations such as KLOS and KMET. Adding to the buzz, the EP's cover featured Tawny Kitaen, who was dating Crosby at the time. She would later become widely recognized for her appearances in Whitesnake music videos. Thanks to the strong reception of the EP, Ratt caught the attention of Atlantic Records, who quickly signed them to a major label contract. Wasting no time, the band began writing and recording their first full-length album, Out of the Cellar, which was released in March 1984. The album was praised for its unique sound, a blend of Stephen Piercy's raspy, blues-influenced vocals and the blazing twin guitar work of Crosby and new lead guitarist Warren DeMartini. Their sound was a mix of the flashy energy of Van Halen the swagger of Aerosmith, and the sharp, rhythmic guitar style of Judas Priest, which helped define their place in the glam metal world. Tawny Kitaen, still closely linked to the band, appeared again, this time on the album cover of Out of the Cellar, and she also showed up in the music video for Back for More. The album was a huge success, driven by hit singles like Round and Round, their biggest hit, reaching number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and later reappearing in 2020 on the Billboard Rock Digital Sales Chart at number 18. Wanted Man, Back for More, and Lack of Communication. The video for Round and Round stood out, not only for the song's energy, but for a surprise cameo by Milton Berle, a famous comedian and uncle of Ratt's manager, who appeared dressed in drag, a humorous and memorable touch that helped the band stand out on MTV. Out of the Cellar went on to sell over 3 million copies in the US alone, earning triple platinum status and cementing Ratt as one of the top hard rock bands of the decade. The album's success launched a world tour, with the band performing in front of sold-out crowds in arenas and stadiums around the globe. Many fans and critics still consider this album to be Ratt's masterpiece, and it played a big role in defining the sound and style of 1980s glam metal. The single Round and Round even ranked at number 61 on Video Hits 1's list of the greatest hard rock songs. Riding the wave of success, Ratt released their second studio album, Invasion of Your Privacy. It debuted at number 7 on the Billboard charts, the same position Out of the Cellar had reached. Critics and fans welcomed the album, with AllMusic calling it another batch of solid pop metal tunes. This record featured more hits that helped Ratt remain popular on radio and MTV, including You're in Love, reached number 89 on the Hot 100, and Lay It Down peaked at number 40 on the Hot 100. Concert footage from the band's live performances in Louisiana and Mississippi was used in the video for You're in Love. Once again, the band's combination of Piercy's raw, provocative lyrics and the guitar chemistry between DeMartini and Crosby kept fans hooked. While it didn't quite reach the blockbuster level of Out of the Cellar, Invasion of Your Privacy still sold extremely well, going double platinum with over 2 million copies sold in the US alone. Ratt supported the album with a massive tour, performing 112 shows across the United States and Japan. In August 1985, they capped off this era with a powerful performance at the Monsters of Rock Festival at Castle Donington in England, playing to a massive crowd of hard rock and metal fans, a fitting way to mark their growing influence on the global music stage. The cover of Invasion of Your Privacy, Ratt's 1985 album, featured Marianne Gravatt, a well-known Playboy playmate who also appeared in the music video for the song Lay It Down. Her appearance wasn't just a one-time visual choice. It actually helped kickstart a trend in the 80s glam metal scene, where bands began using attractive female models on their album covers. Groups like Great White and Slaughter soon followed suit, making this visual style a hallmark of the era. The Invasion of Your Privacy cover also gained some unexpected attention for a different reason. It was shown during a congressional hearing organized by the Parents Music Resource Center, the organization that pushed for parental advisory labels on albums. The image, along with the band's lyrical content, was cited as an example of how some rock music might be inappropriate for young listeners. A few months after the album's release, Ratt put out their first home video, titled Ratt the Video. This compilation featured all of the band's music videos up to that point, including tracks from the Ratt EP, Out of the Cellar, and Invasion of Your Privacy. The video did exceptionally well commercially. It became the first music home video in the US to go gold, and it eventually reached platinum status. Ratt's third studio album, Dancing Undercover, came out a year later. Critics at the time were not especially kind to it, mainly because the band had taken a heavier, more aggressive musical approach compared to their earlier, more melodic, glam metal sound. Despite the mixed reviews, the album was a commercial success, continuing Ratt's streak of platinum records with over 1 million copies sold in the US. Two standout songs from the album were Dance and Slip of the Lip. In an effort to shift their public image and be taken more seriously, Ratt broke with tradition on this album. They didn't use a model on the cover. Instead, the artwork featured gritty, black and white portraits of the band members themselves. This more serious visual tone mirrored the musical direction too. Dancing Undercover contained no power ballads, a glam metal staple, and experimented with faster, thrash-inspired tracks. One such track, Body Talk, was even included on the soundtrack for the Eddie Murphy movie, The Golden Child. These heavier musical elements led some fans to believe Ratt was shifting toward a sound closer to thrash metal bands like Anthrax, Megadeth, or Slayer. However, that direction didn't last long. After Dancing Undercover, the band began exploring a bluesier sound in future releases. Ratt went on a major US tour with Poison, who were just starting to rise in popularity. That tour became one of the highest-grossing rock tours of the year. Ratt also played across Europe as part of the Monsters of Rock tour, further expanding their global fan base. Their next album was Reach for the Sky. Although it debuted strong, peaking at number 17 on the Billboard charts and achieving platinum status, it received harsh reviews from critics, many of whom felt the band was losing its edge. Following this album, Ratt parted ways with their longtime producer, Beau Hill. Even so, Reach for the Sky featured two popular tracks, Way Cool Jr., Swing, and I Want a Woman. Both songs received heavy airplay on MTV, keeping Ratt in the public eye. As of 2021, this album remains their last to achieve platinum certification. The album cover of Reach for the Sky stood out for its surreal, dream-like imagery, which included a statue wearing night vision goggles, a hand emerging from a bundle of twine, a World War II fighter plane, and a wicker chair. The artwork had a Dali-esque feel, and the band has never publicly explained its exact meaning, perhaps intentionally, so that fans could form their own interpretations. Early versions of the cover showed the statue's exposed breast, something Stephen Pearcy specifically requested. However, the rest of the band ultimately chose a more modest version, fearing that the original might get the album banned from certain retailers. Throughout the late 80s, Ratt went on another extensive world tour to support Reach for the Sky, sharing the stage with bands like Great White, Warrant, Kix, and Britney Fox, ensuring their presence remained strong on the rock scene. Even as musical trends began to shift heading into the 90s. Did they ever break up? Ratt's fifth album, Detonator, came out in 1990 and marked a big change for the band. They started working with a new producer, Sir Arthur Payson, after parting ways with longtime producer Beau Hill. The album had a more polished and clean sound, which some fans and critics didn't like, saying it didn't feel as raw or energetic as before. Others thought the band was trying to grow, with deeper lyrics and a more mature style. Songs, like Giving Yourself Away, showed a softer side, while Lovin' You're a Dirty Job stuck to their glam rock roots. They also worked with famous songwriter Desmond Child and even had background vocals from John Bon Jovi on one track. Things started going wrong on the Detonator tour in 1991, especially in Japan. Guitarist Robin Crosby was struggling with substance addiction, and during one show, he played out of tune, creating a mess on stage. That show ended up being his last with the band. Afterward, he went back to rehab, and legendary guitarist Michael Schenker filled in for him for a while. In 1992, singer Stephen Pearcy left Ratt and started a new band called Arcade. He later tried other music styles, forming grunge and industrial rock bands. Crosby also worked on his own projects, but stayed out of the spotlight. The original Ratt members tried to reunite in 1996, though not all of them stayed. A new version of Ratt, including Pearcy, DeMartini, and Blotzer, went on tour. They released Collage, a collection of rare and old tracks. In 1999, a new studio album simply called Ratt came out, showing a blues rock sound that was different from their glam metal days. By 2000, things got messy again. Pearcy left the band and started performing under Ratt featuring Stephen Pearcy, causing confusion since there were now two versions of Ratt. Then, in 2002, Robin Crosby sadly died at 42 from a heroin overdose. His death was a major loss for the band and its fans. In 2006, VH1's Behind the Music told Ratt's story, helping new fans learn about the band's highs and lows. Despite all the drama, Ratt kept going. In 2010, they released Infestation, a new album that reminded fans of their 80s sound. It reached number 30 on the charts, but soon after, they took another break. From 2012 to 2015, more lineup changes and arguments happened. Pearcy left again in 2014, blaming fighting, drama, and disrespect to fans. Even with all the chaos, Ratt's legacy continued, and their music still lives on with fans old and new. What problems have they faced? Ratt, legal battles, lineup changes, and the uncertain future. In June 2015, drummer Bobby Blotzer formed a band called Bobby Blotzer's Ratt Experience, performing Ratt's classic songs with new musicians. Around the same time, bassist Juan Crucier launched his own project focused on deep cuts from the Ratt catalog. Tension quickly followed when Blotzer accused Crucier of using the Ratt name and logo without permission, citing trademark violations. That September, Blotzer took control of WBS, a corporation he had originally formed in 1997 with guitarist Warren DeMartini and singer Stephen Pearcy to manage Ratt's business affairs. Blotzer then declared himself the legal head of the band and rebranded his tribute act as the official Ratt, announcing a 2016 tour called the American Made Reinvasion Tour. DeMartini strongly opposed this move, stating Blotzer had no right to use the Ratt name without the approval of all partners. He filed a lawsuit in October 2015, accusing Blotzer of misleading fans into thinking they were seeing the real Ratt. The court dismissed the case in November, ruling that Blotzer hadn't violated any laws at that time. Despite ongoing disputes, Blotzer continued touring as Ratt through 2016 and early 2017. Meanwhile, he filed a lawsuit against Crucier for trademark infringement, but the court sided with Crucier in November 2016. The judge ruled that the Ratt trademark belonged to the original Ratt partnership, not Blotzer's WBS, undermining Blotzer's claim to the band's name. Following the ruling, Pearcy, Crucier, and DeMartini announced they had officially expelled Blotzer from the Ratt partnership and launched their own Back for More tour. Even after being removed from the partnership, Blotzer continued to perform under the Ratt name, arguing that legal proceedings weren't fully resolved. In June 2017, a final court decision supported Crucier and dismissed WBS's appeal. Despite this, Blotzer kept performing, prompting the Ratt partnership to sue again in May 2018. The following year, a higher court upheld the earlier ruling, reinforcing that Blotzer no longer had any legal claim to the Ratt trademark, and leaving open the possibility that he'd have to cover Crucier's legal fees. With the legal drama mostly settled, the band's focus shifted to a new lineup. In June 2018, Pearcy confirmed Ratt would continue with only him and Crucier from the original members. Guitarist Warren DeMartini, drummer Jimmy DeGrasso, and guitarist Carlos Cavazzo had exited. By July, the new version of Ratt featured Pete Holmes on drums and Jordan Ziff and Chris Sanders on guitars. In early 2020, Sanders left the group and retired from music. That same year, Ratt was scheduled to join the Big Rock Summer Tour with bands like Skid Row, Tom Kiefer, and Slaughter, but the tour was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pearcy suggested that new Ratt music might come in 2021, but later clarified that he would only consider making a final album if all original members participated. Guitarist Frankie Lindia, previously of David Lee Roth's band, was brought in to replace Sanders later that year. By September 2022, Pearcy admitted that a full Ratt reunion was unlikely. He described the band as more of a business entity than an active group and expressed regret about continuing with only Crucier from the classic lineup. He shifted his focus to performing Ratt's songs through his solo act. In March 2024, Crucier launched his own summer tour titled Juan Crucier, the other voice of Ratt, spotlighting his contributions to the band's legacy. Then, in January 2025, Piercy and DeMartini announced a reunion performance at the M3 Rock Festival alongside guitarist Carlos Cavazo, bassist Matt Thor, and former Slaughter drummer Blas Elias. Notably, they chose not to use the Ratt name for the event. Piercy explained that the reunion was purely about the music and would not include Blotzer or Crucier. As of now, Ratt's future remains unclear, with its legacy carried on by former members through solo projects and tribute-style performances. What is their musical style? Ratt's music was shaped by the hard rock and heavy metal bands of the 1970s. They were especially inspired by groups like Aerosmith, Sweet, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath, Scorpions, and Kiss. These bands had powerful guitar riffs, loud drums, and big, energetic performances, all things Ratt admired and wanted in their own music. Ratt also added a newer kind of heavy metal influence to their style, known as the new wave of British heavy metal. This included fast, aggressive bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, which gave Ratt's sound a sharper edge. In their later years, Ratt started to mix in a blues rock feel, adding more groove and emotion to their songs. But in the early 80s, they were among the first bands in California to play what became known as glam metal, a flashy, loud, and fun style of rock that focused on catchy hooks, big hair, and high-energy shows. Visually and musically, Ratt's style had a lot in common with the band Rough Cut, which makes sense because some Rough Cut members had once played in Mickey Ratt, the earlier version of Ratt before they shortened the name. So overall, Ratt's sound was a mix of 70s rock, British metal, and a Hollywood glam look, helping them stand out and become one of the key bands of the glam metal scene. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.